Strike him out.
2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swing and a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walk him off. It's Taylor.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Jeff Spiegel, joined tonight by Daniel Starkand, and we got a sub 3-hour baseball game. We got a 6-1 win over the Mets. The Dodgers win their second in a row to move to 35-17 on the season, 4 games up in the National League West. Tons to talk about. The offense comes alive. A few different guys at the back half of the lineup hitting home runs. Tyler Anderson shoves. The bullpen does their job as well. Daniel, I mean, as far as Friday nights go, this is pretty much as good as it gets, right?
Yeah. This was, I'd say this was an ideal baseball game for me. Like you said, nice and short. 3-hour game. We're sitting here talking at 10:10. It's not 11:30 right now, as is usually the case when we do these. We got some offense, 3 home runs. Everyone loves the long ball. And we got a great all-around pitching performance as well. Tyler Anderson continues to do his thing. So, like you said, hard to ask for a better Friday night. This was kind of like a measuring stick type of series, 2 of the better teams in the National League. And so far, so good. We've only given up 1 run in 2 games here. So that's impressive, regardless of the opponent.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of touched on it. Like, there are different ways to win baseball games. Obviously, when you get 3 home runs, that's a great way to win a baseball game. There weren't really even moments where this one felt threatened. I mean, Hudson had to come in with 2 outs in the 9th, relieving Caleb Ferguson. That was kind of the only time the Mets really had any sort of traffic on the base path. So you get a great start from the Dodgers. 8 of the 9 hitters end up reaching base at some point. Lux and Smith, the only 2 without a hit. Will Smith did draw a walk, though. Again, starting pitching's great. You get the home runs, sort of a complete team victory from the Dodgers here. Lots to talk about. Cody Bellinger, I see people in the chat. Bellinger is back. Well, that'll be a good conversation piece for tonight. We could talk about Tyler Anderson, as you and I did earlier in the week, and that kind of thing. But let's just break down kind of how we got to this point. The Dodgers, things get started in the first inning. Trey Turner extends the hitting streak to 26 games. No drama on that one. No having to wait till the 7th or the 8th inning, that kind of thing for that. So he gets that one going. And then in the second, the Dodgers jump out to an early lead. Cody Bellinger absolutely smashes a hanging cutter from Chris Bassett over the right field wall to go up 2-0. Great catch by the fan. Love the energy from the fan in right field, making that one as well. Some quality screen time as well for him on TV. The Dodgers double their lead in the 4th. Zach McKinstry hits a home run to right field in his first day since being recalled to take Edwin Rios' place on the roster. They go up 4-0. Yency Almonte comes in the 7th to give up a run. Pete Alonso absolutely murders a baseball into left field for that one, but the Dodgers get another late run in the 7th inning, on a Trey Turner RBI infield single. They get another run in the 8th inning on a Chris Taylor home run, 6-1. That's all she wrote. The Dodgers do it from start to finish. Daniel, when you think about this one, what stands out to you the most? Is it the home runs? Is it Tyler Anderson? Where do you want to start on this one?
I'll start with the offense, even though, I'd say Tyler Anderson stood out as well. But when you look, it was pretty much the guys at the bottom of the order getting it done. Cody, it feels like it's been a while since he homered, so it was good to see him get one. Zach McKinstry, just called back up yesterday. It feels like he's been kind of like the forgotten man in all of this, but he's actually having a great year at AAA. And, at the beginning of the season last year, he gets off to that great start. We definitely, had high expectations for him. He got injured and such, dealt with some injuries, wasn't exactly performing at that same level once he got back, but he's still a guy who, could fit into this organization's future plan. So it's good to see him back up. He gets into a homer, and then CT hits one late. Those are what your 6, 7, and 9 hitters or whatever it is.
6,
bottom
7,
of the order guys, 7, 8, 9. There you go. So we know what the guys at the top could do. So when you got get the guys at the bottom producing as well, this offense is pretty scary.
Yeah, you mentioned McKinstry. I mean, so far in AAA thus far this year, an 887 on base, OPS with a 424 on base percentage. Fantastic from him at AAA. It's also scored 31 runs. That's in 38 games. You said it. You go back to last year, the month of April, he comes up, he hits 296 with a slugging percentage of 556. So an OPS of 883, over 54 at bats. Then injuries and stuff kind of derail that. But this is a guy that, people were high on heading into last year. He proved them right at the beginning of the year, then struggled down the stretch. And like you said, sort of seems to have been a forgotten guy. Everybody's asking for Kevin Pillar. Everybody's asking for Jake Lamb, Miguel Vargas, name it. Well, Zach McKinstry comes up. I tweeted before the game. I said, he's getting his first hit of the year tonight. And, I was looking at it. I thought about betting on it before the game. It was like minus 130. I was like, geez Louise, I need better odds from the number 8 hitter to get a hit in that one. But he comes through. He ends up going 1 for 4 with the 2-run home run there. So nice to see that from Zach McKinstry. And we're going to talk about Edwin Rios and Kevin Pillar, 2 guys who went on the injured list a little bit later. I see some folks in the chat already saying the Dodgers bench. Are we concerned about the lack of depth? Well, Zach McKinstry is the guy that would probably be benefiting the most because of Edwin Rios and Kevin Pillar going on the injured list. And so something we can talk about later on as the night goes on. But let's talk about Tyler Anderson. 6 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts for Anderson. If you're on social media, you've seen all these numbers. He's now at 26 consecutive scoreless innings. He has 5 straight starts of 6+ innings. He has 33 strikeouts in his last 33 innings with just 2 walks across that stretch. Tonight, again, 6 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, just 81 pitches. The University of Oregon alumni doing us proud. We had 2 University of Oregon guys in the game tonight, by the way, a third coming tomorrow. But good stuff from Tyler Anderson. And I don't know what to say about him at this point because he has been unbelievable.
Yeah. I was the high man on Tyler Anderson going into the season. I remember we did our bold predictions. I predicted he would be 4th in pitcher WAR on this team.
He's first right now.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was about to say. I mean, I might have shortchanged him a bit there. Even I was high on him, and I didn't think he'd be this good. Like you said, 26 straight scoreless innings. He just seems like he's in complete control out there. Like he's able to mix up his pitches. He's able to locate well. He mixes up his arm angles, to mess with timing. So he's really got it rolling right now. It's really. He made some tweaks to his changeup, and that's kind of unlocked some things for him. So yeah, I don't think anyone could have predicted the season he's having. Same with Tony Gonsolin last night; he was phenomenal as well. So credit to those guys, because when you looked at this starting rotation, at the beginning of the year, like Gonsolin was the number 5 guy, and Anderson was piggybacking, like coming out of the bullpen right after him. He wasn't even in the rotation, and right now, that's been their 2 best pitchers. I mean, Tyler Anderson got a 7th win tonight. He's 7-0. Tony Gonsolin is 6-0. So between them, that's 13-0. That's that'll play, as the kids like to say.
Yeah, and I mean, even calling Gonsolin the 5th starter feels disingenuous because they weren't letting him pitch. I mean, it was like, hey, give us 3 innings and then Anderson will piggyback. Neither of those guys was necessarily being trusted, and yet both of them, as you said, coming through. If you saw our show on Monday, you and I broke down both of them and said, hey, are we buying or selling both of these guys? We talked about the changeup for Tyler Anderson and how effective of a pitch that has been. That continued to be the case tonight. As you said, he now leads Major League Baseball in wins. Tony Gonsolin leads Major League Baseball in ERA. I mean, if you go back and look at Tyler Anderson's game log, we're really talking about 1 bad start. He allowed six innings, 7 earned runs against the Phillies back on May 12th. I mean, you take that out, going back, 0 earned runs tonight, 0 earned runs, 0 earned runs in his last 3 starts. Then you've got 2, 7, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. 2 or fewer earned runs in all of his appearances. That's 8 of 9 appearances this season. The only one, again, 10 hits, 7 earned runs that he allowed to the Phillies in a 9-7 loss a few weeks ago. And so you said it. I mean, the changeup is the key. He's throwing 90 miles an hour, but guys are swinging through it. The changeup is keeping people off balance. Fangraphs did an article today about Tyler Anderson's changeup. Baseball Prospectus, I believe, also had a piece up about Tyler Anderson's changeup. He's got the funky delivery where sometimes he comes sidearm. He's got the hitch in his leg. I don't understand how in the world a pitcher does what he does. Like the balance that he has on one leg to then be able to fire a 90-mile-an-hour fastball exactly where he wants. But even against a Mets team who is one of the better offenses in Major League Baseball, at least on paper, just again, I mean, like Alonso hits a home run off Almonte. Nobody really threatened anything that Anderson was doing tonight.
Yeah, and he was efficient too. Only 81 pitches in 6 innings. I know you tweeted about it. I was thinking it too. I probably would have sent him back out there for the 7th. I'm not exactly sure why, the hook is so loose there when he was just in complete control all night. Like he was never really in any sort of jam whatsoever. Guys weren't, there wasn't a whole lot of hard contact allowed. So I probably would have won one more inning. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much. The bullpen came in and got the job done. And I think there's probably a method to their madness there. Like I think, maybe him throwing 80 pitches every start instead of 100. That's, kind of a plan to keep him healthy, keep him fresh. Same with Gonsolin. They haven't really stretched him out too far either. But hey, as long as those guys are just going to give 6 shutout innings every time, I'll take that. I'm not going to complain whatsoever. Like you said, the changeup has really been the key for Anderson. When he's locating that pitch, there's just not going to be a lot of hard contact against him. And like you said, the fastball is only 91, 92 maybe, but it looks a lot harder when he's messing with your timing and changing speeds and pounding the strike zone the way he has been.
Yeah, we got people in the chat, Laura, I believe, asking where Tyler Anderson came from. He was a first-round pick of the Rockies. He debuted in 2016, was with the Rockies 16, 17, 18, and 19. Spent 2020 with the Giants, 2021 in Pittsburgh and Seattle, and then 2022, obviously, we know he signed a one-year deal for about $8 million with the Dodgers. And so, look, nobody expected this. I think one of the articles pointed out, he's been a average to slightly 1% to 2% above average pitcher, 4.5 career ERA, that type of thing. And that's kind of what you expected, especially for me. I'll speak for myself. When he goes to the Giants in 2020, 4.37 ERA, 1.39 whip. The results aren't there. The Giants are one of those teams where it's like, if you go to the Rays or the Giants and can't figure it out there, I'm not necessarily as optimistic that you're going to come to the Dodgers and just figure it out. Those are high-level teams. Look, if you go to the Mariners and the Pirates last year and struggle and then come to the Dodgers, all right, we'll see what we got. But for him to go to the Giants and not figure it out and then come to the Dodgers, tweak the changeup grip. The changeup is slower. It's dropping more vertically. They mentioned it on the broadcast. The changeup is something like 11 plus miles an hour slower than the fastball. If those two pitches look the same coming out of your hand, and Oral did the math on it, it's basically coming, when the fastball is hitting the plate, his changeup is 3 feet away from the plate. And so for a hitter, I don't know how you even, you've got to be guessing. And even when you're guessing on the changeup, the thing is dropping and moving so much that it's no wonder that even a 90-mile-an-hour fastball for Anderson looks as good as it did tonight. And so, you keep waiting in a sense for this thing to sort of run out of steam, for it like at some point the Cinderella curse is going to break. But again, 26 consecutive scoreless innings. This is his 3rd consecutive start scoreless. I said it, I think 8 out of 9 starts this season, or excuse me, not starts because a couple weren't starts, but 8 out of 9 appearances, all appearances over 4 innings pitched, 8 out of 9 with 2 or fewer earned runs, just the one blemish on his record, the May 12th start against the Phillies. So that was Anderson on the pitching side. Almonte comes in after him, gives up the home run to Pete Alonso that was murdered. That was my only guess. Maybe they took him out just to save him from having to face Alonso again, honestly, because that ball was slaughtered.
That ball's still going. Yeah. I assume we'll be seeing more of that in the home run derby, next month. Pete Alonso, the 2-time defending champ. He got into one there. It was the first pitch of the inning too, completely ambushes him. Just kind of Almonte tried to groove a fastball in there. I don't know exactly what he was thinking. And Pete took care of that one. Hey, good for the Mets. They got on the board. It took them 16 innings or whatever, but they finally got a run in this series. That's the only run, but hey, good for them.
Yeah. Well, on the offensive side of the ball, let's go to that. Cody Bellinger gets the home run. Zach McKinstry gets a home run. Chris Taylor gets a home run. I said, it's a team effort. Trey Turner, the only guy to have multiple hits tonight. He has 2. Will Smith reached once on a walk. I guess Bellinger, the only other guy to reach twice. He was 1 for 3 with 2 runs, 2 RBIs, and a walk to his name. But Bellinger goes yard in the 6th spot. McKinstry goes yard in the 8th spot, and then Taylor goes yard in the 7th spot. To have that much length and that much depth from your lineup, it's a fun game when you don't feel like you're having to rely on one game. It just, everybody is doing their job, and easy 6-1 victory over, the second best team in the National League.
Yeah. And it's also good to see the long ball. I know, a lot of this season we've been talking about the dead balls and such. The Dodgers have kind of had to, manufacture runs, put some hits together more than they have in the past. But tonight, it was kind of the opposite. That was fun to see. Last night, they only scored 2 runs. They had 8 or 9 hits or whatever. It felt like they were getting guys on base all night and just couldn't score them. Tonight, it was it didn't feel like there was a ton of guys on base, but when they did, they got one guy on base. Then Belly hits one out, 2-run homer. McKinstry, same thing with McKinstry, another 2-run homer. It's 4-0 before you know it, and the way the Dodgers pitchers are throwing, that's a big hole for the Mets to come out of.
Absolutely, absolutely. A couple guys at the top. I mean, the Dodgers do add a run late between Mookie Betts and Trey Turner, kind of a funky play where Mookie Betts is stealing second. I mean, it seems like an obvious thing. The ball ends up going to the backstop. He ends up on third, but what a bizarre play, because not many guys, when they're stealing second base, are looking back at home plate at that late. I mean, I guess he's probably reading the shortstop and seeing that guy not really ready to receive a throw and kind of looking back like what's going on, but ends up doing it. The heads up base running, ends up moving on to third. Trey Turner smokes the ball up the middle, still reaches on an infield single. I joked on Twitter, how many infield singles are hit 101 miles an hour where the ball is fielded cleanly? Trey Turner smokes it, able to beat it out. The Dodgers are able to add. That was the fifth run before Taylor tacked on the sixth. But I was doing the math on this one. Trey Turner and Mookie Betts. I mean, these are guys that got off to slow starts. You and I, when you got to do a show every week talking about the Dodgers and often twice a week, you start to overanalyze these things. I was looking back. Mookie Betts on April 26th, not that long ago. I mean, we're talking, 5 weeks ago? Mookie Betts was hitting 190 with an OPS of 646. Fast forward 2 weeks, May 12th, he's hitting 241 with an OPS of 740. Fast forward another 3 weeks till today, he's now hitting 308 with a 998 OPS. So we're talking about a 350-point increase in his OPS, a 120-point increase in his batting average in the last 6 weeks or so. Trey Turner, you go back a month, he was hitting 250. He is now hitting 300. As I said, a 26-game hitting streak. Look, if you're a betting person and you want some money, the Trey Turner to get a hit, Mookie Betts to get a hit, that's a pretty good place to start for any sort of same-game parlay you want to throw together, because those guys just seem automatic at this point.
Yeah, it's funny. One of our Lakers Nation staff writers, Matt Peralta, he texts me just about every day. He's been he's been getting into betting baseball, and he asked me, it's Mookie over under 1.5 total bases. Every day I say yes, and it's also usually the starting pitcher. It's usually like over under 5.1 innings, and I usually say yes, and it's been hitting like a lot. I've been taking some of those bets too. So yeah, it's been cool to see. It feels like, honestly, you mentioned Trey. It feels like what he's been doing is kind of just getting lost in the shuffle, just because of how great Mookie's been. Like, Mookie's just been lighting the world on fire. It's easy to forget. Like, Trey Turner's got a 26-game hit streak going. Before, like 5 games before that, he had like a 25-game hit streak. Like, since he's come over to the Dodgers, he's hit safely in like every game except for like 8 or 9 games or something like that. Like, he's been ridiculously consistent. In the middle of that lineup, the power, with him and Freddie both, they're, not a ton of power. Like, I think Freddie's got 4 homers, Trey's got 5. But the run production is still there. Obviously, with Trey, he's still got the speed. So, with that infield single, like you mentioned, he hit that ball hard. There's not a lot of guys that are beating that out. McNeil actually made a pretty nice play on it. I know, Pete Alonso dropped the ball at first, but still, like, Trey Turner's speed is what puts so much pressure on those guys, and he beats that out, gets them a big insurance run there. So yeah, those guys, there's not too many players in the league that are, just as dynamic as, Mookie and Trey. Like, true, like 5-tool players can do it all. They got the power, the speed, they hit for average. You mentioned they're both, above 300 now. So, it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk about Bellinger. He's a guy that's come up a number of times in the chat. And I know we've got some folks that got questions. We're going to get to those in a minute. We're going to talk Cody Bellinger. We'll talk player of the game. Then we'll get to some questions, and we'll end the show with a little Edwin Rios and Kevin Pillar talk. But Cody Bellinger, you look at his numbers on the year, 215 batting average, 6 home runs, OPS under 700. I mean, I know you like games like this where he absolutely smashes the ball. He draws a walk, as I said, reaches twice. But then you look, and every time it feels like, maybe Cody's getting on one. Maybe he's starting to heat up. You look at the game log, and it's like, well, he was 0 for his last, 0 for his last 9 coming into today, 1 for his last 13. The OPS is as low heading into today, was basically as low as it had been since 2 or 3 weeks. So, I mean, where are you at on Cody Bellinger, the offensive player? Look, this is an upgrade, by the way, over last year. His OPS is about 300 points higher, and the batting average about 60 points higher. So I'm not saying we're comparing Cody Bellinger to last year, but 213 batting average, 281 on base, 391 slugging percentage. That was coming into today. I should update that. 215 batting average, 286 on base, 407 slugging percentage after tonight. Where are you at on Bellinger?
Yeah. I think if you would have showed us those numbers, in the middle of last season, I think we would have said, yeah, we'll absolutely take that. I think it's clear that he's still struggling. We've seen him perform at much higher levels. There's no doubt in that. But I think he's contributing. I think obviously the defense is still great in center. It feels like he's able to track down everything out there and just kind of glides under balls. That he's fun to watch in center. And I think he's been, probably a little below league average as a hitter. Like I think, hitting's pretty down across the league. But I think, I think he's going to have his struggles. I think there might be a point where he gets hot and hits a few home runs. But overall, I think it's, it's still pretty disappointing just because we know how talented of a player he can be. We've seen it. So in that sense, it's disappointing. But I also think with how many other guys there are in this lineup and on this team, like you don't need MVP Cody Bellinger. You just need a guy who's going to contribute every now and then hitting seventh in your lineup. So, I think he's been fine. I know he just missed some time. He was hurt a little bit. But yeah, I think overall it's been kind of a mixed bag. And I'd say considering what we got last year, I'll take it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, THP, as we said, we throw up the comment there. Underlying stuff says Bellinger similar to 2018, tons of bad lucks, a lot of line drive outs the last few series. You look at his weighted runs created plus 92, so that means he's about 8% below league average. And you do look at his StatCast stuff. I mean, I guess it depends on what you're comparing it to. There's some good if you want to be optimistic. The average exit velocity is the 70th percentile. The hard hit percentage is 70th percentile. The barrel rate is 58th percentile. You want to do the bad, he's in the 8th percentile for strikeout rate. Expected batting average, 31st percentile. Expected slugging percentage, 39th percentile. THP also points out in the chat, the max exit velocity being down is a concern, might indicate that he isn't fully healthy yet. But, I mean, look, the barrel percent 58. Look, if you could get a league average offensive season out of Cody Bellinger, it sounds crazy to say that, but I think we'd all take it. He's still a below average offensive player, even with, the ups and downs that we've seen. And again, this is way better than it was last year, but I all think we can agree that last year shouldn't be the standard that we compare Cody Bellinger to. That's not the mark of like, hey, as long as it's better in 2021, we're all going to be thrilled. This is still a disappointment because if you're going to hit 220 with a bunch of home runs, that's one thing. But if the on-base percentage is 280 and the slugging percentage is, 4 something, that's not going to cut it, So we'll see what we get out of Cody Bellinger, but I'll be curious to see kind of how that one plays out, because it does feel like he's stabilized a little bit, but not necessarily stabilized at the level that you would have hoped for from Cody Bellinger. So we'll see what happens on that front. But let's get to player of the game. Then we'll get to some questions, as I said. Then we'll talk Edwin Rios, Kevin Pillar on the injured list. Some options here. We got, like I said, Trey Turner, 2 hits tonight, gets an RBI. Cody Bellinger, the first home run. He reaches twice as well. Tyler Anderson, Daniel Hudson, probably some other guys who are candidates in this one. Daniel, who do you want to go with? Who do you want to give a shout out to? Those joining us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're joining us, throw yours in the comments as well. As you've seen, we can throw those up on the screen now. So let us know who you've got as your player of the game. We'll shout those out as we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some good options on the offensive side. When you hit 3 home runs, guys in the bottom of the order, they deserve some love. But with that said, I'm going on the pitching side. Tyler Anderson, 6 shutout innings, 26 scoreless innings overall. Like, this is the Met. It's not like, they're facing some scrub team. Like, the Mets coming in where they had won 6 straight. They were, I know they had played the Nationals, but they just absolutely destroyed the Nationals 3 games in a row. They came in a hot team. Their offense was performing well. And so far, the Dodgers have completely shut them out. And Anderson, he was in complete control all night. As I said already, like he wasn't in a single jam. So, player of the game for me is Tyler Anderson.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. Like I said, I mean, the reason the Dodgers won the game as comfortably as they did was Tyler Anderson. I was giving my brother crap today. My brother's a Vanderbilt grad. I'm a University of Oregon grad. I texted him. I said, does it hurt you to know that the Dodgers' best pitcher went to Oregon and not Vanderbilt anymore? And, surprisingly, I haven't gotten a text back on that one yet. But shout out to Tyler Anderson. Again, I think there are guys.
He's probably trying to think who you're even talking about.
Yeah, that might be fair. That might be fair. No, you trust me. He knows. Everybody in my life knows where Tyler Anderson went. As I said, Negochik for the Mets came in, and he was an Oregon grad, inning in a third, 1 earned run. So good for him. We got a couple ducks in this one. We just need Clevenger. We got Peterson tomorrow, as I said. But Daniel Hudson coming in with runners at first and second. It's not like the game was tight and things were necessarily kind of the balance in that one, but he gives you an inning and a third, 1 hit, 2 strikeouts. We've got some people in here saying Hudson might be the team's most important relief pitcher right now. He's been fantastic. 1.96 ERA. We mentioned Cody Bellinger, 2 runs, 2 RBIs, reaches base twice. Did have a hit taken away. Look, we can all be as biased as we want. There was no way that was a hit. It goes right under the shortstop's glove. But he does come around to score, so kudos to him. Trey Turner extending the hitting streak. RBI single for him as well, 2 for 4. So I think those guys all deserve a little bit of credit. But yeah, I think Tyler Anderson. Look, if you're starting pitcher and you give up 3 base runners in 6 innings, strike out 5, and give up no runs with no traffic. I mean, no real threat. He gets the double play to get out of kind of the 1 inning that looked like it might have become a problem for him. But there we go. So that's what we've got on the player of the game side of things. Looks like people agree. Tyler Anderson, the most common one. Laura says Cody Bellinger deserves an honorable mention. So there we go. Let's get to some questions. If you got some questions about tonight's game, about the Dodgers in general, we'll take a moment to get those. While you're sending those in, let me remind you, please check out DodgerBlue.com for a post-game recap. We do that all the time. All sorts of breaking news is posted on the website. DodgerBlue1958 on social media. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you do that. And then please subscribe, ring the notification bell if you're here watching us on YouTube. That's a huge help to us. Spread the word. Let your friends know to join us. DodgerHeads. We're posting live content once a week on post-game shows. We do a full hour-long show as well. Podcast version, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you get that. So we appreciate you checking that stuff out. But please follow, do that kind of thing. Let's get to some questions here. Kind of some ones that, let's see. Hawaiian Kira asks this one. What's the timeline for pitchers who are on the injured list? We don't have exact numbers here, but there is some good news. And Daniel, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this one. Clayton Kershaw making a rehab start on Sunday, I believe, in Rancho Cucamonga. And I believe Andrew Heaney might have been making a rehab start on Saturday. I can't remember. He was, or maybe it was today even. He was slated to be 1 day ahead of Clayton Kershaw, but both of those guys are making rehab starts. Kershaw, 1 rehab start at least, maybe 2. Andrew Heaney, they're saying he could need upwards of 4. Was the last thing Dave Roberts said. Blake Trinan, no update. We have anything you would add to that sort of bit of an update, Daniel?
I think you laid it all out there. Kershaw could be back next week. The Dodgers play the Giants next weekend. If all goes well in this rehab start, he could be back in the rotation for that series. So that'd be nice to see. Obviously, he's another pitcher who was off to a great start before he went down. So if he could get back healthy, that'd be a big addition right there.
Yeah, here we go. Just checking on this. Bill Plunkett from, I believe, a few days ago. He's joining Oklahoma City. Will start rehab on Saturday. So Andrew Heaney slated to make his first rehab start tomorrow night. Clayton Kershaw on Sunday. As we said, Kershaw could be back within a week to 10 days. Andrew Heaney probably still a couple weeks out. But those are the updates for the guys on the injured list. Let's see. Get some questions here. We got some good ones in here, which I appreciate. Here we go. Craig asked this. Do the Dodgers need another hitter? This was a big topic of conversation last year, of course, when the Dodgers had some injuries start to stack up, and they didn't have anybody coming up who you felt like could get the job done. Now they've got Max Muncy on the injured list. Edwin Rios, the guy expected to take his spot, is on the injured list. Kevin Pillar, the guy that maybe was expected to take his spot, is now on the injured list. So how do we feel about sort of the offensive reinforcements that the Dodgers have, Daniel? Do you think, obviously Rios, hamstring's going to be out for a while. Pillar, broken shoulder, he's going to be out for a while. Max Muncy, not really a huge clear timeline on what he's up to. But how do you feel about the offensive reinforcements that the Dodgers have?
Yeah, look, losing Rios, that's not like an insignificant loss. Like, that was a guy who's been hitting pretty well this season. He's been able to fill in wherever needed. So if he's going to be out a couple months here, that's not nothing. That's definitely something you got to account for. They should be getting Muncy back within the next week or so. I know he's out on a rehab assignment. So I guess obviously he didn't exactly get off to a hot start this season. So we'll have to see. First of all, is he healthy? Like, he's been out with the same elbow issue that he had a torn UCL at the end of last season. So we got to see if he's healthy first and foremost. Maybe if he comes back and he's not healthy, if he's still struggling, then you probably got to reassess and look for a bat. But I also think at the same time, I still think you got some solid, depth pieces. We saw McKinstry go deep tonight. He was doing really well in AAA. They call up Eddie Alvarez today, another guy who is raking in AAA. Jake Lamb is still down there if you need him. And then, of course, you got, the prospects, Michael Bush, Miguel Vargas. I know they're not exactly in a rush to call up either of those guys because they want them getting as many at-bats as possible. But, if injuries keep happening and you need a guy, those are two fine options, I'd say. So I still think you got some leeway right now. We got, what do we got, like 2 months till the deadline here. So I don't think they're exactly in a rush to trade for a bat at this, very moment. So we'll see how things play out between now and the deadline. But if Muncy's not healthy, not looking like his usual self, if Bellinger's still struggling, if Lux is kind of struggling a little bit, then I think, maybe a left-handed bat, at the deadline could be something to consider, just because who knows when Rios is going to get back. And also, I think typically, bats are kind of cheaper at the deadline. I'd say, everyone's usually looking for pitching. There's typically, a few bats out there, guys that are kind of rentals that you could just go get and have them as a bench bat or whatever. So we'll see. I still think it's way too early to kind of talk trades. I wouldn't expect any moves anytime soon. But it'll definitely be something to kind of monitor, just because I feel like for the first month of the season, all their position players stayed healthy.
Yeah.
And now we're starting to see some guys break down a little bit.
Yeah, you look through. I mean, you mentioned, you laid it out pretty well. Muncy due back soon. Rios, I mean, I think they're expected. I think I saw like 6 weeks ish is sort of the estimated time. I mean, a torn hamstring doesn't sound great. Pilar was sort of an unproven answer, so it's not like, oh shoot, they lost the answer. But you go down, you look at how things are going in AAA. I mean, I kept saying this. Look, Pilar had an OPS over 1,000. All right, and that was in 36 games and 127 at bats. So he's raking. You mentioned the Dodgers today call up Eddie Alvarez, who. Can we just pause for a second and recognize what an absolutely absurd story this guy is? I remember when Matt sent me an email, in the middle of the offseason, he's like, it's in the middle of the lockout. He's like, hey, we're going to do a video on this guy that the Dodgers just signed. And I'm like, okay, like some minor league dude and he's like, well, just Google him. And it's like, oh, he won a silver medalist. He was a silver medalist in baseball. Yes. But then also you go back and he's like, oh, he was a silver medalist in speed skating. For a guy to be second in the world in speed skating, I believe it was a relay, but still second in the world at that. And then to play a sport in baseball that has basically nothing in common. It's not like, he's a track athlete and then he's a speed skater or something like that. I mean, the
Like
baseball
hockey,
and yeah, like what do they have in common? You look at him, he's got a 930 OPS in 43 games down at AAA. You mentioned some Zach McKinstry has an 888 OPS. Jake Lamb is down there, 12 home runs, 903 OPS. Miguel Vargas, 882 OPS with 8 home runs in 50 games for him. It is interesting because Michael Bush has actually struggled. I don't know if people have been tracking that, but he's hitting 220 with a 693 OPS down at AAA, just 2 home runs on the season. That's in just 15 games, so small sample size there.
Yeah,
but
he's got like 12 other home runs in Double A.
Yeah,
no, but he has been since he got called up.
Totally. So to basically, I think the short answer for me to answer Craig's question is I think they're good. I mean, we haven't even mentioned Austin Barnes, but look, we know I'm the low man on Austin Barnes, but he's been hitting all right. And so he's a guy that could just be your catcher, and Will Smith could DH. We're going to get to a Will Smith question here. So I think the short answer for me is no, I do not think the Dodgers need another hitter, because look, if you tell me that Rios is going to be back in 2 months, that Muncy's going to be back, and then we have to fill in around him with guys like McKinstry and guys like Pilar when he comes back, and guys like Jake Lamb or Eddie Alvarez. I just, Hanser Alberto, like, I think all of that, I'm good with it. I think the Dodgers are going to have enough there. And so that's my long answer to a short question there about, do the Dodgers need another hitter? Let's get to another question here from Justin Mack. It hurts me to ask, but is Will Smith going to bounce back? Look, I'm the low man on Austin Barnes. I'm trying to be the high man on Will Smith. Tonight was not a good night for him. Some of the worst at bats that I've seen Will Smith take. But I did post on Twitter. The StatCast stuff is still, in the realm of encouraging, I would say, for a guy like Will Smith. The numbers are not bad, but you look at, I got a text message this morning from my brother saying Will Smith's like 13th in baseball among catchers, wins above replacement. We know the OPS isn't great. What have you seen from Will Smith, Daniel, and any level of concern that you have?
I think he's just in a slump. I mean, everyone's going to go through these stretches. With him, we haven't really seen it too much. Like, he's just he came up a few years ago and hit the ground running and kind of never looked back. So we have very high expectations for him because of that. But, he's going through a slump. It looks like he's kind of lost the strike zone a little bit. Like he looked at a fastball right down the middle, a couple of them.
Yeah.
So it could be mental stuff, but I just think he's in a slump. I think he'll break out. I think he's gotten unlucky some earlier in the year, which that's kind of always been a theme with him. It feels like he's hit the ball hard a lot and not necessarily always having much to show for it. But I think he'll be fine. I think, and these stretches happen for everyone. So I think I think maybe that it seems like he started kind of struggling a little bit when he moved up into that cleanup spot. I know both me and you kind of campaigned for it.
Yeah.
So maybe he's trying to do too much, thinking he's got to produce in that spot. I don't know. I don't necessarily know. I don't think I'd necessarily move him just because I don't know who you'd be moving up into that spot, especially now that Rios is out. He seemed like a guy who could hit there against right-handed pitching. But I just think he's going through some struggles, and I'm sure 2 weeks from now, who knows, he might be one of the hottest hitters in the league, and we'll be talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the StatCast stuff again, coming into tonight, he was 89th percentile in expected weighted on base average, 86th percentile in expected slugging percentage. The walk rate is elite, 96th percentile. The chase rate, 100th percentile. He literally has the best chase rate in all of baseball. The whiff rate is low. And so it's just a matter of he's making solid contact, average exit velocity, 74th percentile. And so, look, I think all of that stuff is just going to work itself out eventually. I think he's in a slump. As you said, we're not used to seeing Will Smith in a slump. The batting average is down to about 227, actually probably lower after tonight. 222 is the current batting average for Will Smith. This is a guy that, was hitting 259 May 26th. So since then, I think he's got one hit in his last 8 games for Will Smith, dropping the batting average to numbers that we're not familiar with. I mean, he had a 800 OPS like a week and a half ago. So it's just it's a small sample size. Not worried about Will Smith, not worried about Austin Barnes coming for his playing time either, in case anybody was wondering about that. Let's get to another question here. This is from Laura, going back a little bit. Craig Kimbrell, will he be our closer? You and I recorded on Monday. We both said, hey, not worried about Craig Kimbrell. We're good. Then he goes and blows the save. Comes back last night, though, and does look good. Two outings since we last talked, Daniel. Anything change for you on Craig Kimbrell?
No, I think he's kind of, it's been what we expected. It's been a mixed bag, kind of ups and downs. Obviously, he hasn't looked great overall. But at the same time, as we talked about on Monday, why we weren't concerned is he hasn't really been blowing games. Like, he's blown one game, which is going to happen. So to me, I'm not overly concerned. Yes, I would like him to pitch better. I think, this last outing, I think that was a really good outing. He was throwing 97. That was good to see. I think for the most part, he's had zero command of his breaking ball. So I think that's probably the key to if he's going to turn things around, if he could, get command of that pitch to go along with his fastball. I think, there was an article that came out, I think it was Jack Harris of the LA Times, about how Kimbrell, after he blew that save, he found some mechanical tweaks that he made, and he felt good in his last outing. So we'll see how he looks in his next outing. We saw, tonight he didn't pitch, so he's not necessarily really going back to back. We saw Daniel Hudson's pitching back to back. He got 4 outs pitching for the second straight night. That's typically what you would expect out of your closer. Kimbrell, I don't know what the deal is, why he doesn't, pitch as frequently as some of the other guys. But it is what it is. I think they're kind of trying to, keep his arm fresh for the second half of the season or whatever. But I still expect him to be better moving forward. I think with all the other arms in this bullpen, like, it's not all on him to get the job done. So that's kind of why I feel a little more comfortable, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dave Roberts mentioned that they're going to try and make sure he gets into a game every 3 days. There were stretches where it was like he wouldn't pitch for 6 days at a time. They also pointed out, look, his spring training was about as weird as anybody. We know he was with the White Sox, gets traded to the Dodgers pretty quickly right before the season begins. The velocity was way down. He had only made like 2 appearances prior to that. And so I think when you look at those type of things, this is a guy that didn't have a normal spring. This is a guy that, is working through some mechanical stuff, has had some inconsistency as far as appearances for himself. And so when it comes to Craig Kimbrell, wait and see, I guess, is what I would say. I like what I see with the fastball. If he can start locating the curveball, I think we're going to be fine there. So let's get a couple more questions here. Another one. I missed it. Here we go. Mark L asked, If Kershaw and Heaney come back soon, who drops out of the rotation? You've got Urias and Buehler, who you can't move. You've got the league leader in ERA. You've got the league leader in wins. You've got Clayton Kershaw, and you've got Andrew Heaney, who, when he went down, was probably the best pitcher on the whole team. Did the Dodgers go 6-man rotation in your mind, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we got to see if all 6 of those guys are healthy at once. Like, that would be, let's just say that would be a good problem to have if you have all those options available to you. But yeah, I definitely think having a 6-man rotation isn't bad. Like, at points of the season, like, we know the Dodgers like giving guys extra days. We they do that more than any other team in baseball the last few years. So I definitely think that would be advantageous to them to keep guys fresh. We've seen Julio and Walker Buehler. They've just been pitching so many innings the last 2 years that maybe their recent struggles have to do with that. So they could use, some extra days off here and there. So I definitely think, if you got 6 healthy guys, they're all quality options. So I definitely think if you want to roll with that for a little bit, I'd say, the ideal time would have been now when they're in this stretch of 31 games in 30 days or whatever it was, like, and they actually have used this, a 6-man rotation, for some of it with Mitch White and calling up Ryan Pepio to make a few starts. So they still have been giving guys extra days. So I definitely think, when those guys come back, I don't think, Tyler Anderson is really in danger of going back to the bullpen the way he's been pitching.
No, absolutely not.
Constant, obviously. So
yeah, and look, with Treinen out, the bullpen is a little bit more stretched. And look, you've got a guy like Kershaw who is up there in age, and so that makes sense to say, hey, we're going to give you an extra day. Walker Buehler has struggled, as you said. Urias, I think, has been a lot better than maybe people give him credit for. He's been consistent. I think Buehler has had, the elite start that you remember where he's just lights out, complete game, shutout kind of a deal, where Urias is, I think at one point, like 8 of his 9 starts had 2 or fewer earned runs. And so he's very good, but never unbelievable in any of his starts, but he's a little bit more consistent maybe. And so, yeah, look, hopefully the Dodgers have to deal with this problem. Hopefully, because like we said, Heaney might not be back for a few weeks. So hopefully everybody else is still healthy then, and you go to a 6-man rotation and figure it out from there. But I think it's a good problem to have, and it's one that you sort of hope it ends up being in there as well. So Mark L from London, by the way, shout out to Mark joining us from London. Thanks for we appreciate you joining us.
There is it morning? Good morning.
He at some point he said good morning from London. Yeah. So there you go. I have no idea what time it is. I know what time I usually have to wake up if I want to watch England soccer. And so it's probably a similar experience as well there. So let's talk quickly about a couple roster moves that the Dodgers made. Edwin Rios was placed on the injured list with a right hamstring tear, running to first base. They showed a clip before the game today. You could see the look on his face. I mean, look, hamstring tear sounds awful. Like, that sounds terrible. Of all the injuries that you could possibly have, I mean, I guess it's one that isn't necessarily, it's not like a shoulder or an elbow or a knee or a back or something like that. It just sounds painful, and it sounds like the type of thing that is long-term. And Rios was doing well. You and I spotlighted him on Monday and said, hey, what's his ceiling? This is a guy who had an OPS of about 800, an OPS plus of 118, 7 home runs in just 27 games. So a bummer for him. As we said, Eddie Alvarez comes up and takes his spot. He's going to be out for a number of weeks. Kevin Pillar was listed at one point as day today, said his shoulder popped out. He went in for some imaging. They announced today, cracked his shoulder, split in half. I might have missed it. Was he placed on the injured list today or maybe even yesterday, or has that move not officially happened yet?
Pillar?
Yes.
Yeah. He's actually on the 60-day IL. That's how they clear up a 40-man spot for Eddie Alvarez. So he's not going to be back anytime soon. Okay,
got it. So who took, I must have missed it then, because who took Edwin Rios's place? Did anybody take his place?
McKinstry.
Okay, there you go. Got it. That makes sense.
I mean, I don't know exactly who. Like, I think McKinstry took Pillar's place technically, and then today it was Eddie Alvarez for Rios.
Okay. Yeah. Now I'm looking at it. McKinstry for Pillar yesterday, Alvarez for Rios today. And then, as you said, Pillar goes from the 10-day to the 60-day IL to make room for Eddie Alvarez, who needed to be added to the 40-man roster. So clean that up. I mean, to me, the saddest part about that is Rios and Pillar. You feel for those guys. I don't have much of an emotional connection to Pillar, but look, I was a guy that was not high on Pilar when they signed him, and everyone got excited because they remembered the Sports Center top 10 catches he had made. And you look at his numbers and he's like, this guy hasn't been able to hit really ever anywhere he has been. You even look at his defensive metrics and it's like, cool, he makes a bunch of diving catches, but maybe that's because he's slow or he's in the wrong position a lot of the time because defensively he doesn't grade out well. And yet he tweaks a couple things with the Dodgers down at AAA. And as I said, I mean, an OPS over 1,000 over the sample size that he had, for him to come up to the majors, to kind of struggle, even if he's hitting the ball pretty good, and then to break his shoulder or whatever the official left shoulder fracture is the official one, a bummer for him. And then you've got Rios, who struggled mightily last year, ends up going on the IL, getting shoulder surgery, comes back this year, finally gets some playing time with Max Muncy hurt, starts hitting bombs, and then goes on the injured list. I just feel for those two guys as people, maybe more than anything else.
Yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, Rios, was swinging the bat well. He was finally kind of getting an opportunity to be an everyday player, with Muncy out. And then, Pilar, like you said, he was doing really well in AAA, and he gets called up by his hometown team. He's back in the show. He was kind of getting an opportunity to kind of play every day. I know it was like a 3-day span or whatever it was, but both of those guys were getting opportunities, and you hate to see injuries. So it's unfortunate. I think it's good. Both of them sound kind of gruesome, but neither are season ending. So at least, you hope you're going to get, both of those guys back for the second half, and have that depth. So I'm with you. I feel for the people. But I mean, I definitely think, the overall depth is in a much better place than it was last year. Like, I don't think last year you couldn't really afford to lose two depth pieces like that. So I definitely think they're in a better spot this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we'll see it with the DH. I think that helps you out a little bit because you're not having, look, we've all made fun of Dave Roberts for pinch hitting. I feel like they basically never pinch hit now. I mean, most of the time you've got nine hitters and all 9 of those guys end up finishing the game. So, all right, with our last few minutes here, let's look ahead. Tomorrow we've got Walker Buehler versus David Peterson. Again, Buehler comes into the game 6-1, 3.22 ERA. Peterson on the other side has missed some time, but he's got a 2-0 record with a 3.03 ERA. And then on Sunday, a 1-10 game, you've got Julio Urias, 2.89 ERA. Again, people are skeptical of Julio Urias. He's got 2.89 ERA against Trevor Williams.
Even Buehler, you said 6-1 with a 3.22. Like, everyone acts like he's like this horrible pitcher now. That's not too bad.
Totally. So you got Buehler and then Urias to close this one out. Obviously, the Dodgers get swept by the Pirates. They ruined me and you saying they were going to go 5-2 this week. Best they could do is now 4-3. But how are you feeling after the first 2 games with Buehler and Urias against Peterson and Trevor Williams? Because, I mean, look, the Dodgers just went through the 2 best Mets pitchers that they were going to face, you would guess. So,
yeah.
I mean, you got to feel pretty good going into these next 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, on paper, the Dodgers definitely have the advantage. I'll be curious to see how Buehler looks. We know he hasn't exactly looked his best the last few starts. The fastball isn't what it used to be. He's not missing as many bats as a result of that. So, we'll see what kind of outing he has. I do think, kind of him and Julio both, like in their last outings, they kind of gave up some early home runs, but then they both kind of at least settled in, gave like some length, 5 or 6 innings or whatever it was. So you like that at least. But yeah, you're definitely looking better, for better from those 2 guys. Those are supposed to be your 2 best guys. I know we're talking about Gonsolin and Tyler Anderson here and how great they've been, but these are, Buehler and Julio are still your 2 horses. The Mets pitchers, like you said, these are probably their 2 worst starting pitchers. So the Dodgers definitely have the advantage there. Guys seem to be swinging the bats well. The bullpen's throwing well. So, I don't see why the Dodgers can't take, these next 2 games. And that'd be cool to kind of quiet the noise. Everyone's been talking about how great the Mets are. Obviously, like you said, Dodgers get swept by the Pirates. That'd be a nice little bounce back series here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you kind of said this. When the Dodgers bats are clicking like they are, when Trey Turner's on a 26-game hit streak and Mookie Betts is the best player in baseball and Freddie Freeman's humming along and doing his thing, it almost is like you don't really look too much into who's pitching for the other team because it's like it doesn't really matter. I mean, Chris Bassett's a good pitcher, and he comes out today and, gives up 4 earned runs before handing it over to the bullpen. Both relief pitchers end up giving a run. And so if the Dodgers can get that sort of production from Betts and Trey Turner, then you look down the rest of the lineup and it's like, all right, like as long as we get a couple guys out of the Justin Turner, Will Smith, Cody Bellinger, Chris Taylor, Gavin Lux category, as long as, if Betts and Trey Turner, you just pencil them in, Freddie Freeman, pencil them in, give us two guys down to the bottom of the lineup to get a hit or two, and we'll call it good. We're pretty much going to score against anybody. Dodgers have an off day on Monday, so they can kind of empty out the bullpen. Lots of guys who are well rested because Gonsolin gave them 6, Anderson gave them 6. They only used 3 relief pitchers today. And so you got to feel good about these next two. And as you said, like I joked on Twitter, I said, all the people freaking out about the Pirates sweep, if we calm down after they take 2 in a row against the Mets, if they can win 3 out of 4 against the Mets, these people that are panicked about a series in the end of May to the Pittsburgh Pirates can cool their jets a little bit, go back to having the best record in the National League, extending their lead in the division to 4 games and whatnot. And so it's a good sort of feeling to be able to wipe the taste out of your mouth quickly with these ones. So let's end with this. 2 games against the Mets, Daniel. We're terrible at making predictions, but that's why we make them. 1-1, 2-0. What do you got?
I'm calling the sweep, baby. I like the way, I like the way we're swinging the bats. Seems like the Mets, I don't know, maybe they got jet lag from flying across the country or whatever, but they haven't looked ready to play the last 2 nights, and I like, the starters we got going. So I'm calling the sweep. I'd love to bring that, that broom back out again. Yeah,
this will be a couple Mondays in a row if we could get the sweep back on Monday's show. Yeah, I mean, it's always hard. The Mets are a good team. I'm going to say 1-1. I won't predict which one the Dodgers lose, but I just think, look, if you take 3 out of 4 from the Mets, you're thrilled with that, and you just move along. Again, I said it, 35-17, 4-game lead in the division. You just keep plugging along. They get to play the White Sox after that. Again, off day on Monday. And so you feel pretty good about all those things, I think, considered. Laura's got 1-1 as well. Mark L's got the broom. Hawaiian Kira's got the broom as well. So some folks agreeing with you, Daniel. They want to see the broom. We all want to see the broom.
We all want to see it. Yep.
We all want to see it. Laura said she loves the optimism. So there you go. Well, hey, folks, we appreciate you joining us, as always, on these post-game shows. We've just tipped past 11 p.m., so thanks to those joining us on YouTube. Thanks to those joining us on Facebook. As I said, please like, subscribe, rate, review, follow, ring the notification bell, whatever you need to do, wherever you're at. We appreciate you. Check out the Dodger Blue post-game coverage on YouTube. We'll have tons of post-game press conferences, interviews, that type of stuff, so good stuff there as well. That's Daniel Starkand. My name is Jeff Spiegel. As always, we appreciate you joining us. Dodgers win 6-1. They beat the Mets. We'll see you next time.